Hello and welcome to the Craft Witch Corner, where I yap and craft. My name is Dex and my pronouns are he, they. Today's video is all about spring goals. So I'm going to be going over the spring goals that I set for myself last year, talking about what things I did, what I didn't do, all of that, and then I will be discussing my goals for this next year. Alright, so let's talk all about last year's goals. First and foremost, the biggest overarching goal that I had was just advancement in my craft. So whatever it is that I did, I just wanted to get better and improve and grow and learn as a practitioner, and 100% success. 100% success. There's too much that I could say about how and why I would say that I have advanced, but the biggest thing comes back to one of the other kind of goals, which is just showing up more for my practice. And in showing up more for my practice, spending more time at my altar intentionally, doing more spells, not giving up when things didn't work, and working through a lot of anxieties that I had that were holding me back from trying things like working with spirits, 100% I have advanced. I am really proud of myself, and I'm really proud of the progress that I made throughout this last year. And the next one is obviously doing more spells, which I said I definitely did a lot more spells. I think in the last year I did more spells in that year than I've done my entire time being a practitioner. I definitely used to be not just an armchair witch, but formal spells were just really scary for me, and I doubted myself a lot, and I felt like I wasn't capable. I wasn't confident in my abilities to have successful outcomes. In the past, I really let that fear hold me back from exploration and from trying and from advancing, and I am very grateful that over this last year I have learned to take mistakes and failure as lessons and be able to keep trying and figure out how to make things work and how to make things happen. So yeah, I definitely did a lot more spells. 3 of the things that I did not do is I did not finish reading Condensed Chaos for the second time, sadly. My coven, where I was reading the book in a book club, we just all got really busy, and then also I didn't end up coming back to reading it myself because I just wasn't vibing with it. I don't know. Someday I would like to read it again and go through all my notes and dive deeper into some of the topics in the book, but for now, didn't do that. I also never finished reading Librenoir and Psychonaut. I just didn't enjoy it, and I just didn't really have time for it. I was reading so many other books and doing a lot of other things, trying to settle into my new home, and I just didn't end up doing it. Again, as with Condensed Chaos, I would like to eventually read the whole book and dive deep into it. It's just gonna be a while. Another thing I did not do is create a servitor. It didn't feel right. The servitor that I had planned was for my glow up, and it's complicated. I never really officially birthed my glow up or kind of went all the way with that, but I've still been doing all of the things that I planned to do and like all of the things that I wanted to achieve with the glow up. So the servitor just didn't feel necessary for me. Someday I would still like to make a servitor. I don't want to do it. I want to have a good reason. And then my own list of correspondences, I have definitely been doing that, especially through working with different plants. I have done a lot with my own correspondence list, which I will continue to work on forever and always because that's just a part of my practice. Sadly, I did not get back to doing any experiments. However, I do kind of feel like I've had a very experimental mindset in my practice, following my intuition, trying stuff and seeing if it works, but not in like a formal experiment where I was intentionally doing that. I definitely did more art magic. I did some knitting spells and worked with collage in my like art magic practice, and I have really enjoyed that process. It's a lot of fun. I did not fill up 3 grimoires. However, I only have about 20 pages left to fill out in my junk journal grimoire, and I had already started my runic grimoire, which I will be continuing to fill out as I do my 2-year rune journey. I also have started a new grimoire that is just for the rest of my practice, and more like detailed notes that are stuff that doesn't have to do with runic magic or my rune journey. I haven't filled up all 3 of them yet, but I have almost filled 1 and already started 2 others. So not a success, but a step in the right direction. I did end up sticking with my sacred text that I had previously been working with, and I did do more work with it. However, not as much as I wanted to. I'm still counting it as a success because I did up until January. I think the last time I worked with my sacred text was in January, so 3 or so months ago now. I just didn't work with it as much as I wanted to, but still counting that as a success because I did continue working with it. I did not end up taking the trolldom course. I just can't afford it, and at this point I don't know if I ever will be able to take it. I really hope one day I will be able to afford it. But for now, I'm really not too worried about it. And yeah, I can't afford it, so I'm just not taking it right now. I did not read the Eddas and Sagas. I started, but then so many things were going on and I got very busy. So I didn't. I have now started them. After the start of this spring, I have been reading, and I started with the Prose Edda. Working with land and local spirits, I've done that. Not as much as I wanted to, but I've been slowly building up the practice. For example, I've been going to the cemetery once a month, and I've been, since we moved to this place, working with some spirits in a local trail. I haven't done anything specifically with them yet, but I have been giving, not regular offerings, but every once in a while I've been giving offerings, picking up trash and bringing water and different things like that. I have not yet worked with a husnissa for this place I'm living. However, I have been working with the spirit of like the structure of the apartment. I have really enjoyed that practice. It's different than what I gather working with the husnissa would be. I do not give like offerings of porridge or oatmeal. I give offerings of cleaning the space mostly and doing like energetic cleansings. Those are the main things. And I do give an offering once a week. I think I've only missed a couple times. But yeah, I haven't worked with the husnissa. I still don't know if I'm going to. And at this point, I'm not that worried about it. I'm happy to just continue working with the spirit of the structure of my home that I have been. That relationship has gone very well and been very helpful. I have made more bind runes and continued working with bind runes, but I didn't make many more complicated ones than what I was doing before. I've kind of found that the simpler it is, the better it is for me. I think there's merit to making more complicated bind runes, don't get me wrong, but for me, like practical use in how I want to use bind runes, the simpler the better. The 2 that have gotten the most use are very simple and very easy to remember. I did finish my 6-month rune journey, and I did start my 2-year rune journey, so both of those were big success. I've continued working on deity work with Loki and Freya, and I also did a few offerings that were like to the gods as a whole. I've also been feeling a pull towards working with Hel, but it hasn't felt like quite the right time. Like there's a lot of other stuff going on that I need to put more focus on, but I do think that at some point I will end up working with Hel because I just feel such a draw towards her. I've still been meditating every single day with a few exceptions of like just when things get too busy or whatever, but pretty much every single day I've been meditating. I have especially been doing a lot of spirit communication in my meditations because of the many various spirits I've been working with. Unfortunately, I have not really done anything with my inner temple. There are multiple reasons for this, the biggest one being just struggles with visualization. I think at this point, my visualization skills are probably strong enough that I could go back to working in my inner temple. Not that I was traumatized by working in my inner temple, more that I now have a little bit of hesitancy and doubt in my ability to work in my inner temple because before my visualizations just weren't strong enough. To make a very long story short, I used to have this problem where my visualizations would just like get away from me and I would lose control of them, and then they would kind of do their own thing, and regularly I would be like get attacked by visualizations that I was trying to do. This happened when I was in my inner temple, when I was just doing regular meditations, guided meditations, just trying to enter alpha and like doing the countdown stuff. In so many different places and situations this was happening. And it was definitely not a spiritual occurrence. It was 100% just my brain having a really hard time visualizing and a really hard time staying in control of those visualizations. However, with the immense amount of work that I put in towards working on visualizing in my own personal practice, but also very specifically as a part of the Psychic Witch book club that I did with Benta's book club on their Discord, I put so much work into it. I put so much work into being able to do it. And I now don't have that happen as much. There are times when it's a little bit harder for me to visualize, when I'm not as focused. Did I take my meds this morning? I totally got distracted because I couldn't remember if I took my meds or not, and so I kind of freaked out a little bit and was trying to figure that out, and I did, so yay. Hopefully I can remember what I was saying. I sort of don't, but I think basically what I was talking about was how in visualization, now that I've put so much work into it, I don't have so much like difficulty with keeping control of them. They don't get away from me, they don't attack me, but sometimes I do struggle a little bit to hold on to my visualizations when I'm just not as focused, when it's too late in the night, so my meds are kind of not as strong as they were when I first took them, or I haven't taken my meds yet. Just in general, sometimes I have more or less focus like every other person. But overall, I have made like quite a lot of progress in my ability to visualize, and I'm very proud of myself. There's still stuff that I'm working on. I do still have the desire to work on my inner temple and make that a big thing, especially as I am getting a lot more into mind magic. It's not actually an official goal for this next year, but it is something I still want to work on. Herbalism. I definitely worked on herbalism a lot more. I've made more oils. I think by now, I might have talked about this in my Fehu vlog, but I have a protection oil, I have a focus oil, a money oil, an oil for happiness. I think that might be all. I think I have at least 4 oils, and I am planning this month to make a 5th oil. So I've been doing a lot of oils. I also am working on a tincture and have plans for another tincture this month as well. I have also been working on deepening relationships with some plant spirits. The plant spirit rosemary, which was prompted by my work with the crow spirit, and I also have been working on my relationship with the plant spirit rose, which was prompted by Fehu. I think in that Fehu video I talked about how it's crazy to me this keeps happening where I'm working with the spirit and the spirit is like, work with this plant spirit. I'm interested to see if that continues. I am currently on my month with Urus, so I'm curious to see if that's going to happen here. I will talk about that in the Urus video. Unfortunately, I did not make the salve I had planned to, and that is because the freaking oil molded. I was so devastated. With Kitchen Witchery, I did not do a ton of stuff intentionally, but I did write a blessing. I say that blessing, or I try to, sometimes I forget. But I try to say the blessing whenever I'm rinsing rice or washing produce. That is kind of the only Kitchen Witchery thing that I intentionally did. So my totals for that is 13 out of 23 succeeded. Not great, not terrible. I am proud of myself. For the most part, the things that I didn't do ended up being things that I just kind of lost interest in, like finishing Condensed Chaos and Libernal and Psychonaut. I just kind of like didn't really want to do it anymore. It didn't feel relevant or important or helpful to my path at the time, so I was just like, meh, it's fine. Or I just didn't have time for it. That is everything for last year's spring goals. And now we're going to talk about this year's spring goals. I am super excited. I believe, I could be a liar, but I believe, yes, I have much fewer goals this year because I realized I don't want to spread my focus too much, and I really want to lock in and be able to actually achieve the things that I want to. But I've given myself enough variety that hopefully it'll be exciting enough for me to want to do it, and also if I lose interest in one thing for a bit, I can pick something else up. We'll see. So my first 2026 spring goal is to just continue my 2-year rune journey. That's it. I will have grace with myself if I need to take a break for literally whatever reason, because I can just pick it up the next fucking month. It's not a big deal. But I would like to try to stick to it all the way through. And like I said, I am on month 2 of that with Urus. Number 2 is reading the Eddas and Sagas. This is something I am really going to do my best on because I think it's really important. Number 3 is spirit work, and I have a lot of different spirits that I'm working with. First and foremost, the 2 plant spirits, Rosemary and Rose. I am just continuing to meditate with them, learn from them. I'm really excited to continue that process. The next thing on that would be finishing this 1 year with the cardinal spirits. So I am currently on my last season, spring, with the snake cardinal spirit. Once I finish this season and summer begins, I am going to figure out what it looks like to work with all 4 of them at the same time, or figure out if I want to continue working with 1 per season, or just what I want to do with that. And I'd really like to create a much deeper practice with them because I've really enjoyed getting to know them, and I would just like to continue doing that. And then ancestor work, I already have an ancestor altar, and I'm working with 4 particular ancestors that I knew and loved in life. I would like to branch out a little bit, even though it's a bit scary for me, to just my ancestral line in general. I would like to do that. I'm figuring it out. I read Frankie's book on ancestor work, Chaotic Witch Ant, on YouTube, and I'm currently reading another book on ancestor work that I will put on the screen. As I read that book, I am being prompted in a lot of ways to get a lot deeper with ancestor work, and I feel very inspired by a lot of what the author is talking about in that book. The spirits of the cemetery that's local to me, I am continuing to see them at least once a month and give them offerings. And then also the spirits of the trail by my house, I've started taking a walk every single day, and when I go, I greet them and thank them for the beauty and all of that, and occasionally give them offerings, and I just want to continue to do that. And then whatever other spirits I'm led to by the spirits I'm working with, like I said earlier, the crow spirit led me to Rosemary, and Fehu led me to Rose, so I just am going to continue keeping that open mind to whatever spirits I'm being led to by the spirits I'm working with. I also really want to learn more about Norse folk spirits, obviously by reading the Eddas and Sagas, and I'd also like to read some books on Norwegian folk tales. A big thing that I am working on this year is learning how to just be quiet and listen. With both spirits and, corporeal beings, I have a very difficult time letting there be silence. Silence just feels very uncomfortable. That's like a big thing that I'm working on in spirit work, is just being able to be completely silent and not fill the void or fill the space. Number 4 is continuing to work on meditation. I want to take more trips to the lower world and more spirit flight, astral work stuff, as well as trips to meet with Yggdrasil and spirit communications, and if I feel like it, stuff with my inner temple, but it's not a big deal if not. And then just continuing to have that experimental mindset and experimenting to find my niche little corner of witchcraft and practice. I'm definitely leaning more and more and more and more in a Norse direction and in a more folk magic, definitely chaotic, still definitely chaotic folk magic direction. So I just want to keep trying shit and see what happens. Number 6 is filling up my newest grimoire at least halfway. It is 300 pages. My goal is to fill up 150 pages. I realized my mistake last year. Filling up 3 grimoires in 1 year is crazy as fuck. So instead, I am just going to try to fill up my new grimoire halfway. That's it. That's it. I don't care about finishing my junk journal grimoire, which is easily gonna happen. If it doesn't happen by next year, I'm gonna laugh, but it should easily happen. And my runic grimoire, I'm doing the 2-year rune journey. It's getting filled up, so I'm not really worried about that. It's gonna happen. But my newest grimoire, I want to get 150 pages at least. Yeah. Number 7 is learning how to identify plants so that I can get more comfortable with the idea of foraging. In particular, I want to learn more about identifying the plants that I see like in my neighborhood. So the trees and the bushes that are planted in the parking lot and along my walk, the plants that are down the trail. There's so many different kinds of plants, some of which I already know, like there's a bunch of blackberry bushes, and as with pretty much everywhere else in my neighborhood And actually, I think just in the city I live in, horsetails everywhere. Horsetails, anywhere that something can grow, there's gonna be some fucking horsetails and dandelion, but especially fucking horsetails. That is something I actually really want to get to know the spirit of horsetail and work with horsetail. But I just want to take some time. It doesn't even have to be a lot of time, but some amount of time this next year learning to identify the plants in my neighborhood. My very last goal for 2026, it's probably the thing that I am most excited about, and that is learning as much as I can about Seidr. Different people pronounce it different ways. I'm not going to judge you, so please don't judge me. Some people call it Seidr. I personally pronounce it Seidr. It is something I have become so incredibly interested in. I am so interested in it. And I have already printed like 12 PDFs. I have gone through so much of my printer paper. And then I bound them into little books. I've already read through 2.5 sources. I am taking it all with a grain of salt. Anything that's not like from the sagas or from the Eddas or whatever, but pretty much everything, I'm taking it all with a grain of salt because there's not a lot of information on it. So there's like a book that I'm going to read, and I can't remember what it's called, but I think it's by Dean Kirkland or something like that. I hope I'm close to the name. But basically, if anybody is claiming to have a historically accurate Seidr practice, they're grifting, they're scamming. Like, they're usually selling a course or a book or something. There's no way to have a historically accurate Seidr practice because there is not enough sources about it. With a lot of Norse stuff, there's not enough sources for it to be true historical accuracy. And so, like, a lot of people were saying, if that's really important to you, then learning about Seidr is not going to be for you because it is going to be a lot of winging it, and it's inspired by Seidr, not a true historically accurate Seidr practice. For me, I am totally fine with that. I am happy with that. I would be doing it that way anyways. I refuse to do things just because they're historically accurate. I follow my intuition, I experiment, I try things out, and I see if I actually enjoy doing the thing that way or not. If it actually feels true to me and to my practice, if the spirits I'm working with like me to do things that way or not. Anyways, tangent aside, the point is, I want to learn everything I can about Seidr, look at a lot of sources, varied sources. There are certain things that I will be avoiding because they are written by shitty fucking people who I do not want to align myself with in any way. But overall, I want to look at sources, even if I don't think I'm going to agree with them or get anything good out of them. I just want to see different people's opinions. I will not be buying any courses. I am not interested in giving someone money to, sell me something super inspired by their UPG in this instance, because I would rather follow my own intuition and build my own inspired by Seidr practice. So yeah, I am just going to read sources, mostly free sources and things I can get from the library. There are a few sources that I will read once I've read everything else I can that I do have to buy. There are at least 3 books that I could not find through the library or anything else, and I'll have to buy them, and they're the most expensive, which is crazy. But I will read through a lot of reviews on them before I do that and see if it's actually going to be worth it to spend like 50, 60 bucks on a book, which I don't normally do and wouldn't normally do. That is my final goal for spring, is to learn about Seidr and kind of start building practice. So I'm really excited about that. I will say, if there's any interest in videos about that, I will consider making videos about it. To make it abundantly clear again, it will not be historically accurate. It cannot be historically accurate, and I am not aiming for historically accurate. I am aiming for inspired by, and like reading the sources and then following my intuition and working with Freya. I am going to be figuring it out myself and figuring out where I want to go with what the sources have, the little bit that the sources have. If there's any interest in hearing about that or reviews on different sources, things like that, I won't be doing that for a while because that is something I don't want to talk about until I have read all of the sources and have a better grasp of it, which It won't be much of a grasp because there's not much on it, but I would consider talking about it in the future if there's any interest. Clearly, number 8, learning about Seether is the thing that I am most excited about, but I do look forward to diving in with all 8 of my goals. So that is everything I have for today. I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and a comment. Let me know comments, questions, concerns. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Subscribe if you would like to hear or see more from me, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your day. Stay crafty and stay kind. Bye.